الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with the book of Akhsar Al-Mokhtasarat, and before we start inshallah, the person is the person is making himself busy with the ilm. This is one of the greatest virtue, because without ilm the opposite is al-jahl, or being ignorant of something, and this is one of the reasons why there is batil, why there is falsehood. Sheikh rahimahullah, he said that mansha al-batil, the falsehood is initiated from two things: نقص العلم, lack of knowledge, أو سوء القصد, lack of knowledge, or سوء القصد, the evil intention or the wrong objective. So one of the two or both of them brings falsehood. So سوء القصد, the cure to it is for a person to fear Allah, to have the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And without it, just that is not sufficient unless a person have knowledge. Because if a person has knowledge but he doesn't have the proper understanding of it, and if he has the proper matters of the heart and the fear of Allah, but he has the lack of knowledge, then he still can be upon those who are upon al-batil and falsehood. So that's why the ilm is not just about the information, it's about also being obedient to Allah and fulfilling that in our life, even if it's not related into our life. We start by the chapter of Al-Wadi'a. So even if you don't have anything to do with Al-Wadi'a, but the more we learn something, the more that increases our iman, increases our ibadah and obedience to Allah. Before we start, what's Al-Wadi'a? They have it in English? Trust. Okay, mashallah. Trust. So this is where we stopped, inshallah. He says, فصل ويسن قبول وديعة لمن يعلم من نفسه الأمانة. ويسن, that means it's يسن, that means it's recommended, it's مستحب. قبول وديعة, it's recommended, it's good to accept wadi'a, or something that is a person is entrusted with. And we'll see the details of it. And the meaning of al-wadi'a comes from al-wada', which is to leave something. Like da'anka, something, leave it. So why? Because al-wadi'a is basically something that a person would leave at someone that he trusts, at al-muda'. The word al-wadi'a is now actually is used in the financial, as a financial term, where they have a deposit of some sort. But different than the accounts where the banks can deal with it, which has some correct meaning to it, where a person would put money that he would not use. But this is, again, they have riba in it and things like this. So this is what the wadi'a here, it means someone would trust someone else to keep with him money of anything of value. And that's why the definition of it is mal, something has to be of value. مدفوع, that you have to give it to someone. إلى من يحفظه, you would give it to someone that would guard it, would keep it, would guard it. بلا عوض, without taking wages as a result of that. So that means it's عقد أمانة. It's a matter of trustworthy. It's a matter of doing a good deed. So it's not, and there's implications to it. When someone is doing a favor to someone, that means he's not going to be damin, as we talked about al-daman. He's not going to guarantee if something happens to it, unless, in his negligence or did something to it. But in general, it's without any iwad, without anything in return. So he says here, وَيُسَنُّ قَبُولُ وَدِيعَةٍ. So it's recommended to accept the wadi'ah, but not from everyone. Not everyone should. It's a good deed for them, because there are conditions for it. And what he mentions here, لمن يعلم من نفسه الأمان. So the first thing, what is mentioned here is, it's recommended for the one that knows from himself al-aman. He knows that he is trustworthy. He knows that he can keep it without that being lost, or without any harm would happen to it. And that doesn't mean that a person would accuse himself as being a thief, for example, or might be, if he keeps something of someone else, he might take it and steal it. Of course, if someone knows that of himself, he should not accept any amanat or any trust from anyone. But also, it can be that he's trustworthy and he's someone that doesn't intend any evil or any harm, but he knows that the place that he lives in, the neighborhood that he's in, the way that his family and the environment that he's in, he cannot keep anything. People might steal it, it might get lost, he travels a lot. So there might be many circumstances that he would know for himself that he cannot keep an aman, keep a trust. So therefore, it's not recommended for him. It becomes even not permissible for him to accept something like that if he knows that he might lose it. So وَيُسَنُّ قَبُولُ وَدِيعًا. And why it's yusanna? Because it's a favor. A person would benefit so much if someone can keep a valuable thing for him if he travels or he goes somewhere and things like this. But once this wadi'a is given to another person, then it's a contract. Why? Because it's of value, it's of wealth, so it has to have a contract, or it doesn't have to be written, but there are rules that governs it. So he says ويلزم حفظها في حرز مثلها. ويلزم حفظها. يلزم. اللزوم here is that it's mandatory. It has to be done that way. حفظها, to be guarded or to put it. الحفظ is when you keep something, when you save something. So it has to be saved في حرز مثلها. الحرز is a safe. So if you have a safe box or something that is known to be the place where they save things in it, مثلها, the like of it. And the like of it meaning that if it's, for example, if someone leaves a car with you, right, then you keep the car where usually the cars are kept. You don't keep the car in the barn, for example, right, where it might be dangerous or something can be harmful for the car. If someone gave you jewelry to keep it for him till he come back from traveling, where they usually put the jewelry in, they won't put it under the pillow, for example, right? They will put it somewhere. So حرزي مثلها, the like where it's known that thing of value would be placed and saved in whatever place that is, money and things of that nature. So that's different from according to the environment that the people in, according to whatever is being the item of the trust. But here is في حرزي مثلها, because if it's lost, would then the responsibility be upon al-muda', the one that receives it, or he does not guarantee anything because he's doing a favor? The original ruling is that he does not have any responsibility unless he put it in a place where it's usually shows his negligence, that he threw it out in the street or he kept it, and actually more details to come. So it has to be وَيَلْزَمُ حِفْظُهَا فِي حِرْزِ مِثْلِهَا. It has to be guarded or protected or saved in the like of its hirz. And al-hirz is the means of protection, which is the safe. Like the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, whoever says La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah lahu al-mulk wa lahu al-hamdu wa lahu kulli shay'in qadir 100 times in the morning, then the reward of it or during the day, كانت له حرز من الشيطان, it will be protected. It will save him from the shaitan his entire day. So this is حرز. ويلزم حفظها في حرز مثلها. The next مسألة وإن عينه ربها. وإن عينه ربها فأحرز بدونه أو تعدى أو فرط أو قطع علف دابة عنها بغير قول ضمن. These cases here, if it happens, then ضمن, the last word in the sentence, the muda', the one that received the amana, the trust, will guarantee to give the like of it or to pay back the value of it. When he is not supposed to do that, but if these things happens, that means he's responsible. What is it? وَإِنْ عَيَّنَهُ رَبُّهَا فَأَحْرَزَ بِدُونِهِ. إِنْ عَيَّنَهُ رَبُّهَا. رَبُّهَا is the owner of the trust. If the owner of the trust عَيَّنَهُ, he specified the hirz, he specified the safe. So someone goes to someone else, says, can you keep my money till I come back? But I want this money to be in your house. Do not save it anywhere else. Then that person took it in another house and it gets stolen. He's responsible. Because the owner of the money, he specifically mentioned that he wants it to be saved in this place or in that box. Or if he mentioned something in specific. وَإِنْ عَيَّنَهُ. التعيين is to make something specific. ربها, the alif, the dhamir here refers to Al-Wadi'a. Right? ربها refers to the Wadi'a. So if the owner of the Wadi'a عَيَّنَهُ عَيَّنَهُ عَيَّنَ الحرز. So the ha refers to the hirz or to the safe. فأحرز بدونه. Who's the one فأحرز? The مودع عنده, the one that, what you call the person that is entrusted, right? So the entrusted one, أحرز, he saved it بدونه, in other than what the owner had specified where it's to be saved. Right? So this is the first case. Clear the masala here? So he gave him a car. Keep my car with you, not as a loan. Just keep it, save it till I come back. But I want you to keep it in this garage. But then he kept it in the streets. Right? And then it got lost or stolen. Then domin. The entrusted one, he will guarantee to bring the like of it or the value of it. Right? So because the owner, what did he do? عين الحرز وإن عينه ربها فأحرز بدونه. So the first part of the sentence, وإن عينه ربها, that means the owner, he specified the hirs, the safe. The second part of the sentence is with regards to the entrusted one. فأحرز. Who's the one that أحرز? The one that is entrusted. بدونه, by other than the hirs or the safe that the owner of the item specified. Clear? The words are clear? وإن عينه ربها فأحرز بدونه. أو the second case أو تعدى. أو تعدى meaning the one that is entrusted تعدى, he transgressed. He transgressed in dealing with it. That means usually التعدي, that means he did something that is not permissible. He did something that is not permissible for him to do. Al-Wadi'a is an amana. If he take a portion of it to spend and then he can pay it back or he doesn't pay it back, for example, then he did something not permissible. This is ta'addi. Because it's saved in its exact items. He did not give it to him as a loan. If someone gave someone $100, says, keep this $100 with you till I come back, can he use it and then put another $100 in place? He cannot. It's not permissible. Why? Because it's amana. Amana by its ayn, by its specific, this specific dollar bill. But if he says, well, keep it with me as a loan, because it's very difficult for me to deal with it if you want to keep it with me. That means when you come back, I'll give you another $100. It doesn't have to be this exact one. And this is what Az-Zubayr ibn Awam radiallahu anhu used to do with the people. Why? So that he can guarantee the money for them. Otherwise, if it's amana, if it's lost, I have nothing to do with it. But if it's lost and he took it as a loan, he has to give it back. So out of the nasiha to them, and also he can benefit from it while he has it. So أو تعدى, so the تعدي is to do something that is not permissible. أو فرط. فرط, that means this is the negligence. التفريط is when he was negligent in the way that he saved it. Left the garage door open during the night when he knows that his neighborhood is full of car thieves. Right? This is negligence. It's not haram to leave the garage door open, but this is the negligence. This is that he's not paying attention to what is being entrusted with. So أو تعدى أو فرط. So تعدى, transgressed the limits, did something wrong, or فرط was negligence, or أو قطع على فدابة عنها. قطع على فدابة. Al-Qat' is to cut off something. So he cut off al-alaf. Al-alaf is the food that the cattle would eat. He cut off the food from it. بغير قول, without qawl, without a statement from the owner. Right? So the owner, he did not tell him to do that. He just, he kept with him a cow or something till he come back from his traveling, and he did not feed it till the cow died. Then who's responsible? Who's domin? The one that is entrusted. unless the owner, he told them, do not feed it. Right? If he told them to not feed it, maybe he knows of a disease that it has or something. So if it died in that case, who's the one that would guarantee it? He does not guarantee anything. But of course, if he knows that the owner, he wants to kill his animal, which is something that is ready to happen, then of course he has to save it because it's a soul. So clear. So if any of these things happen, بغير قول ضمن. ضمن, that means who's ضمن? The entrusted one. He would then have he guaranteed to bring the like of it or the value of it. Clear? Then he says ويقبل قول مودع فيه. Once they talk about قبول القول or not, that means that there's a dispute. So there's a dispute between the مودع والمودع, the one that owns the trust and the one that was entrusted. One said, I returned it. The other one says, no, you didn't. Someone says, I gave you this to keep with you. He said, you didn't keep nothing with me. There's no evidence. So if there's no evidence whatsoever in the dispute, then whose qawl, whose statement is to be taken in consideration by the judge and whose statement is to be ignored. So he says, وَيُقْبَلُ قَوْلُ مُودَعٍ. المودع is who? The entrusted. المودع. المودع with a kasra is the one that the owner. Right? So المودع with a fatha, the one that is entrusted. That's اسم مفعول. The one that is entrusted. So يقبل قول المودع. And of course his statement will be taken when he swears by Allah. So they're in dispute, and in front of the judge, the muda', the one that is entrusted, he says, by Allah, he did not give me anything, or something like this. But his statement is only accepted in situations here. في ردها إلى ربها. The first one is in ردها. الرد is to return something. And the ha alif refers to who? To what? The wadi'a. في ردها, الضمير here, his words are to be taken in returning it to its owner. So what that means, the dispute, what's the dispute? Did he return it or not? No. So the owner said he did not return. He acknowledged that he gave wadi'a to the muda. He have iqrar of this, but he says he did not return it back to me. So and there's no evidence. So whose word is to be taken is al-muda. Why? Because he's amin. He's the one that has been entrusted. And the muda, he acknowledged that he gave it to him. So ردها في ردها إلى ربها. أو غيره بإذنه. أو غيره, or other than the owner, غيره بإذنه, by his permission. So if someone, he kept something with someone else, and when it was returned, a worker from him, for example, or a friend came to him, he says, can you please give me the car of my boss? He says, no, you have a permission. He shows him a permission. The guy called him on the phone, please give the car to the so-and-so that is coming to you. His name is this and that. So this is أو غيره بإذنه. If he gave it to someone else without his permission, of course, then this is tafrit. This is negligence. He has to pay for it. But أو غيره بإذنه, as he says, by the permission of the owner, then he's not ضامن. His statement is to be taken. Then in front of the judge, he would say, I gave it to so-and-so by the permission of the owner. So, and there's no evidence for the other side, then his words are to be taken. He says, لا وارثه, but not his warith, not his heir. And here those who inherit from him is different, right? Because if the muda', if the one that is entrusted, he claimed that I returned the wadi'a, the trust, to the inheritors, then his statement are not to be accepted unless there's a dalil. Because when he says وَيُقْبَلُ قَوْلُ مُودَعَ, that means there's no dalil, there's no evidence. So here, if the muda', if the entrusted one, he says, I returned it, the guy died, the owner of the wadi'a died. So the waratha, the inheritors, are coming saying, where is the wadi'a? The guy, he says, I gave it to you. I gave it to the waratha. and there's no evidence that he gave it to them, then in that case, his statement is not valid. Why? Because who's the one that entrusted him? The one that died, not the inheritors. So then his statement is not to be accepted in their rights because the deal was not with them. Clear? Unless, of course, the owner, he would write in his will, give the thing to the waratha. So if this is an evidence, but if there's no evidence, then his statement are not to be taken for the waratha, for the heirs of the deceased. Clear? So this is the words of the muda' will be taken. And also وفي تلفها. وفي تلفها. التلف, as we mentioned it before, is when it's ruined completely. So the wadi'a, the trust is ruined, crashed, something fell on it, whatever there is. So then his words are to be taken because he's entrusted with it. وعدم تفريط وتعد. عدم تفريط, that means he would deny from himself that he did any negligence or wrongdoing. So if there is a dispute and the muda', the owner of the wadi'a, he claims that al-muda', the entrusted one, he lost it because of his negligence, and he has no proof to it whatsoever. So the muda' says, "No, I did not. It's not negligence from me. I did not do anything wrong." Then whose the words are to be taken? The word of the muda', the trusted one, unless the other person has an evidence. Clear? وفي الإذن and in the permission. In the permission also that he's Amin. So if he says someone, I gave the wadi'a to so and so by the permission of the owner. So that means his words are to be taken. Unless there's an evidence that that didn't happen. Clear? And there's difference between the waratha versus someone else. And of course, if someone goes to him and he says the owner of the item, he wants it back, he has to say, what's your proof? He show him a proof. So he has nothing to do but to give it to him. So he's not responsible. If there's no evidence that this did not happen. He says, وَإِنْ أَوْدَعَ اثْنَانِ مَكِيلًا أَوْ مَوْزُونًا يُقْسَمْ فطلب أحدهما نصيبه لغيبة شريك أو امتناعه سلم إليه. وإن أودع اثنان, if two people أودع, that means they gave as a wadi'a, as a trust, مكيلا أو موزونا, something that is measured by volume or by weight. He says here that it's yuqsam, it will be then to be separated. And that is if it's something that is valid to be separated, if they can split it without any harm, without any wrongdoing. So if a person is able to separate them, so one of them, he asked for his share because his partner is absent, or he's present but he's refusing to take his share, and with the permission of his partner to take his share. Then al-muda', the one that is entrusted, he has to give him his share in that case, because this is a common right. So two people, they are partners in something, grains or something, or dates or whatever, and they give it to someone to keep it in his makhzan or his storage. So both of them own it, and one wants his share versus the other. If they're able to separate it, then he should give it to him. وإن أودع اثنان مكيلا أو موزونا يقسم. That means it's feasible to be separated, divided. فطلب أحدهما نصيبه. One of them, he asked for his share. لغيبة شريك, because the sharik is absent. أو امتناعه, or he is refusing to come and take his share. سلم إليه. سلم in the passive tense, then it should be handed over to him. سلم إليه. وإن كانت ولمودع ولمودع ومضارب ومرتهن ومستأجر إن غصبت العين المطالبة بها. So here now it's about asking for the wadi'a if it gets stolen. This is different than the previous one. So here لمودع, the mudi', the one that gives, the owner of the trust. I'm sorry, no, this is ولمودع, ولمودع, the one that is entrusted. ومضارب, right, and the one that is given the money to work, to invest it. ومرتهن, مرتهن is the one that is given the collateral to keep. ومستأجر, and the one that rented a property. إن غصبت العين, if the item is stolen, to him is المطالبة بها. He has the right to ask for it. Right? To ask for it, that means, this is, he has it within the period of time, so he has the right to go and ask for it because he's supposed to protect it. So say, for example, someone rented a car. I'm just saying, but of course, sometimes the laws of the land will say something else. But if he rented a car and the car stolen, according to this, since he's the one that rented it, he has the right to go to the authorities and he says, give me the car. Because it's car I rented. Say, for example, the police caught the thief and they caught the car. Right? I'm not sure what happens in nowadays. Does if the renter one goes, do they give it to him or they return it back to the rental companies? The mas'ala here is, if he rented it, he has the right to take it back within the renting period, of course, because it's under his authority, under his he's the one in charge of it. So the same thing with the muda. Since we're talking about the wadi'a, if someone kept a wadi'a with someone and that house was stolen, so he goes after the muda, the entrusted one, he would go ask for what is, this item, even though it does not belong to him. But he would go to the authority, go after the thief, whatever there is, and he has the right to take it. No one would tell him this is not yours. Well, no, he trusted me, and I have it in my house for that reason. Then they have to give it to him. Please?
Last statement, is it right?
Oh, of course. Right. Well, is it the right also for the mudi', the owner, to go after his property if it's get lost or stolen? Of course, it's his right because he's the owner. But the question is, does he have to say, for example, to the mudi', to the entrusted one, it's your responsibility to bring it, you go after, you take care of that case till you bring it back. Does he have the right to do that? If it's no negligence, not necessarily, because he's been entrusted. It's not negligence from his part. But that's why it's walimuda. That means he has the right to go to it because it's under his possession. But the muda' does not have to insist that he go after the muda', unless the muda' was negligence or did something wrong. So let's read it together first, and if we have time, we can go to the next section. It's short. Can we read it first? طيب, and if you have any questions, let me know إن شاء الله. ويسن قبول وديعة لمن يعلم من نفسه الأمانة ويلزم حفظها في حرز مثلها، وإن عينه ربها فأحرز بدونه أو تعدى أو فرط أو قطع علف دابة عنها بغير قول ضمن، ويقبل قول مودع في ردها إلى ربها أو غيره بإذنه لا وارثه، وفي تلفها وعدم تفريط وتعد وفي الإذن، وإن أودع اثنان مكيلا أو موزونا يقسم، فطلب أحدهما نصيبه لغيبة شريك أو امتناعه سلم إليه، ولمودع ومضارب ومرتهن ومستأجر إن غصبت العين المطالبة بها. Can we take the next فصل quickly إن شاء الله؟ طيب, the next فصل is with regards الأرض الموات. الأرض, the earth, that is موات. موات from موت. And الأرض الموات is the barren land, is the deserted land that no one owns it. Right? In some countries, you would have land that is not owned by nobody. No government, no nothing. Just like that. So what's the rules of this land? Who has the right to it? And this is one of the mahasan of the Sharia. This is one of the good things about the deen. Even if it's, if it's not owned by an individual and owned by the government, for example, the government doesn't own anything, but it's just like, it's, the government will claim it, for example. Right? But as you would see, if someone would do something to it, then he has a form of ownership on it, according to the Sharia. He says here, وَمَنْ أَحْيَا أَرْضًا مُنْفَكَّةً عَنَ الِاخْتِصَاصَاتِ وَمِلْكِ مَعْصُومٍ مَلَكَهَا. So now the last word is مَلَكَهَا. That's the hukm. He has the ownership of it. What can make a person own something that he never purchased? He says, وَمَنْ أَحْيَا أَرْضًا مُنْفَكَّةً. Whoever أحيا أرضًا, whoever made a place of earth alive. Right? And the meaning of making it alive, that means he would plant it, he would cultivate it. It's dead, it's of no benefit whatsoever. And he worked on it till it becomes, green, and it gives fruits and produce and things like this. So, وَمَنْ أَحْيَا أَرْضًا مُنْفَكَّةً عَنِ الِاخْتِصَاصَاتِ. منفكة, that means it's detached from الاختصاصات. الاختصاصات is the plural of الاختصاص, from something specific, which is something that has been appointed or been decided that it's going to be for a new city to come, a park, or a valley. So it's not zoned, basically. Right? Something, maybe it's correct to say that منفكة عن الاختصاص. That means it's detached from any zoning whatsoever. It's not mentioned in anything. It's just in the openness, and no, it's not owned by anyone, and no one has authority over it whatsoever. Or milki ma'soom, or owned by someone that is ma'soom. Someone is to be protected. His money is to be protected, because it's not permissible for someone, even if the land is barren and nobody did anything in it, but it's owned by someone. It's not permissible for anyone to come and to plant it and things like that. And then he says, this is my land. So if these two things are there, then a person can have the ownership of it. But he has the ownership of it after he make it alive, after he would plant it and things like this. And that's the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, من أحيا أرضا ميتة فهي له. The hadith is, whoever gives a life, a piece of land that is mayyita, dead, then it belongs to him. And so he has the right to it whatsoever, and there's some differences in some details. So, and of course, whoever takes something that does not belong to him, it's a major sin, and he will be chained with it to the seventh earth in the Day of Judgment. So, but then he says, وَيَحْصُلُ, that is attained, بِحَوْزِهَا بِحَائِطٍ مَنِيعٍ. That means if he took the land and he worked on it and it become alive and everything, and the ownership happens by him putting around it حائط منيع, like a strong or a protected fence. So that's إحياء له. If you go and you put a fence around the piece of land, then this is making it alive. So he would protect it from anyone else to come over and use it and things like this. أو إجراء ماء لا تزرع إلا به. Or إجراء ماء, he gets water to run in it, that it would never be cultivated except with this water. So he did that. He did that work. He dug a well. He got something from the nearby river, whatever there is. So he brought water to the land. So it was never be used unless this water comes, and he did it himself. أو قطع ماء لا تزرع معه. Or he stopped water that there's no way that they would be able to plant anything with it with this water being present. There's a source of water that never stops, makes the land like a swamp. So he stopped that source of water for it to return back to be a dry land for him to be able to plant on it. So he has the right to this land. أو حفر بئر, or he dug a well in it. So all of these things, أو غرس شجر فيها, or he planted trees in it. So all of these things are signs of al-ihya, all signs of making the land alive. So that means he would own it, and it shows, of course, the benefit of it. So that instead of this land being not used and things like that, now somebody planted it. Some people would benefit from it. He might hire people to work. People would eat from it and things like this. So that's why it becomes his. And in the practicality of it nowadays in some parts of the world, where you would find the government would make that deals with the individuals. They would, if you want to take a piece of land that is open, they even provide for you things, but as long they will give you a period of time. If you cultivate it, if you work on it, then it becomes yours without paying anything. Some cities, they give you $1 or something. Huh? They have that here, right? Right. Or they sell it for $1 or something like this. Right. So now. And then the last point here is ومن سبق إلى طريق واسع فهو أحق بالجلوس فيه ما بقي متاعه ما لم يضر. من سبق, whoever surpass, come ahead of people to a طريق واسع. طريق is a path or a road, واسع, spacious. So he has the right, فهو أحق بالجلوس فيه, he has the right to sit in it. ما بقي متاعه, as long as his متاع is there, his belongings are there. ما لم يضر, as long as he does not harm anyone. And what he meant by الطريق is not like a road or a path of people. Just someone goes into the open land in the desert like that and he sits there. As you'd see some parts of the world where they go to the barra or the outside, they just park their cars in the desert and they sit. He comes there and he sits there. Someone else comes. Maybe this also can be applied in say, for example, parks that has no places in it that you don't have to call to reserve it. So it's open piece of land, and you come and you sit and you put something on the ground and you sit. Can someone else come says, please leave because I want that spot? No, he came there first. So this is من سبق إلى طريق واسع. Whoever goes to a place and it's spacious and he sits there first, then فهو أحق بالجلوس فيه. ما بقي متاعه, as long as his belongings are there. That means as long as he's there, not that he would save it for a year and then makes a spot there for him every time he wants to come. Doesn't work that way. ما لم يضر, as long as he's not harmful to anyone, does not cause harm to anyone. And there's a beautiful hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and this is in general any matter. من سبق إلى ما لم يسبق إليه أو يسبق إليه مسلم فهو له. من سبق, whoever سبق. السباق سابق race. But here it means whoever comes first to a place that no one comes there before him, then it belongs to him. The masjid, the rule applies. Someone comes in the first saf, right? So he has the right for the first saf. Someone Mina manakh liman sabaq, as the Prophet ﷺ said, someone goes to Mina first, but now they organize it. But it's used to be for, if someone goes there first, then it's his. It's all for everyone. It's not something that is saved for a particular person. As long as there's no harm. Stop here, inshallah. So this إحياء الأرض الموات, we'll read it. He says, ومن أحيا أرضا منفكة عن الاختصاصات وملك معصوم ملكها ويحصل بحوزها بحائط منيع أو إجراء ماء لا تزرع إلا به أو قطع ماء لا تزرع معه أو حفر بئر أو غرس شجر فيها. ومن سبق إلى طريق واسع فهو أحق بالجلوس فيه ما بقي متاعه ما لم يضر. And here when you see من أحيا أرضا منفكة عن الاختصاصات plural of الاختصاص وملك معصوم. ملك معصوم مضاف إليه not ملك معصوم. You can say ملك معصوم but ملك معصوم is the one that is respected. His property and wealth is to be respected. That means he has ownership. So ملك معصوم, so his ownership, then ملكه. ويحصل بحوزها, he refers to the land, بحائط منيع أو إجراء ماء لا تزرع إلا به, ضمير goes back to it, أو قطع ماء لا تزرع معه أو حفر بئر أو غرس شجر فيها. ومن سبق إلى طريق واسع فهو أحق بالجلوس فيه ما بقي متاعه ما لم يضر. طيب let's take the حديث إن شاء الله. حديث 147 عن أبي ثعلبة الخشني رضي الله عنه عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن الله فرض فرائض فلا تضيعوها وحد حدودا فلا تعتدوها وحرم أشياء فلا تنتهكوها وسكت عن أشياء رحمة لكم غير نسيان فلا تبحثوا عنها. يقول حديث حسن رواه الدارقطني وغيره. So here Abu Tha'laba al-Khushani radiyallahu anhu, one of the companions of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he's one of the ones that gave Bay'atul Ridwan with the Sahaba. So he said that عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, narrating this hadith from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, saying إن الله فرض فرائض, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala farad, this is a past tense, that means he obligated obligations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made obligations. فلا تضيعوها, do not waste it, do not ruin it, do not neglect it, do not act upon it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made fara'id, he made it fard upon you. That means to act upon it, it's fard, it's mandatory upon you. فلا تضيعوها, that means the opposite of dealing with it as a fard. That means do not, what's a tadhi' is when you lose something, when you don't act upon it. وحد حدودا فلا تعتدوها, and he حد حدودا, the hudud, the limits, he set limits, so do not transgress these limits, do not go beyond these limits. The limits can be that, for example, you're fasting and the limits is from this time to this time. He ordered you to make salah, but there are limits to it. It's not just make salah and that's it. There are limits. So it is not permissible to go beyond the limits. وحد حدودا فلا تعتدوها وحرم أشياء فلا تنتهكوها, and he forbade you from certain things. فلا تنتهكوها, do not break what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade, do not do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade, do not come close to it. وسكت عن أشياء, and he سكت, السكوت is to be silent. He did not mention anything about certain things. That means he did not give a hukm and ruling to it, whether it's fard or haram. So that means what? He says, Rahmatan lakum, out of his mercy towards you. He did not say anything about it. He says, غَيْرَ نِسْيَانٍ, not because he forgot, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. It's because out of his mercy towards you. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not reveal that this is haram, then it is not haram. So it's left for a reason. Or he did not reveal that this is fard, I mean it's not fard. فَلَا تَبْحَثُوا عَنْهَا, do not search for it, meaning do not ask for it. Do not say, is this haram, unless a person, after the Prophet ﷺ, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they were forbidden of asking because the wahy is coming and the wahy is going to be completed out of the fear that this becomes obligatory upon them, like Bani Israel did. Khilaf, different than after the wahy is terminated, then it's okay for a person to ask, but not to make it difficult for oneself. And not to say why this is not haram, why this is fard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perfected the religion. And nothing is missed because of forgetfulness or because of any weakness or deficiency. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most perfect in his names and attributes. So, and that's such a comprehensive hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And whoever applies it, he gets the best of this life and in the hereafter. And many of the matters of the deen can be explained within the light of this hadith. So you have furud and wajibat, and you have hudud, limits to it, and you have things that are forbidden and things that are not mentioned. And this is each one how to deal with it according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants of us. We'll stop here inshallah. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم ربنا بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.